In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Divine will, come to reign in us as in heaven. And may the divine will speak in my speaking, and may the divine will listen in your listening, and may we all learn more and more about the mystery of God. God is a great mystery. The title of this talk, I didn't put the sheriff's name on the board, but we don't have a blackboard, but I like to make a little joke, you know. You're free to call a sheriff if I say something you can't hardly handle it. So the reason I say that my title of this talk is, it sounds a little strange at first, but the words are in the book of heaven. So the title of this talk is called The Destiny of God. But I'll put it underneath there so everybody understands. It's a self-made destiny of God. God's own destiny. It's not working? Well, this is where I was this morning. I'm trying to start making that crazy noise. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. Good. See, that's we get that vibrations. When I got it up too high. Let's try that one. Hello. Hello. Yeah. I said the title of this talk, and it's too long for one session, but it's called The Destiny of God, but it's a self-made destiny. God had no beginning, but He's always lived in the eternal mode, which has no beginning and no end. And I just thought of something I haven't talked about all week. It just came to my mind. And don't believe me, I'm not going to be able to answer right now. But he said, the best acts have no beginning. The best acts, ACTS, have no beginning, which means that they are done in the eternal mode of living in the divine will. Because when you enter into the divine will with His gift, like if you were to say, I love you, God, that means that you loved Him as long as He had been God and as long as He will be God. Okay. Which is always and forever. Prefatory remarks. God is eternal, without beginning, and a relationship of three divine persons who have no need of anything. Yet there was something special that they very, very much wanted. What they wanted so very, very much was mankind, male and female, with their souls united and living with them in their own same will, doing with them what they do. As most intimate companions, loving them with their own divine will, sharing one divine life together in perfect happiness and harmony. They love this mankind so much that was in their eternal mind before we actually came out of eternity and into time. They loved this mankind so much that they decided that one of them would even take upon himself the very same nature as man and become like man while remaining God. All mankind and all that they would give to mankind and all that they would receive from man, and all that they would received from man in return became their preoccupation and their constant thought of their divine mind. It formed their destiny. Their destiny would be the joy and the glory of seeing man formed and finished outside of themselves in the marvelous universe that they would create just for him. So God, from always, in all eternity, but there are different points you might say in eternity, I don't know how to explain that. But in the beginning of God, in the beginning that St. John the Evangelist had to use, in the beginning, even though there was no real beginning, in the beginning, they had this longing, this supreme longing to share with other beings, and they were going to be human beings, their very life, their companionship, and their divine will, and so forth and so on, and live one life together, doing the same things together. So if God, like, creates the universe, he wanted man to be involved in that. If God makes the stars shine, he wants us to be making the stars shine. If the birds fly and the fish swim, God's making it happen, but he wants us to be making it happen with him. Now this is advanced. This is not something you normally do, but this, like Eamon said, he has a premonition that I won't be back. So I'm going to share one of my latest talks. The following texts are presented. I'm going to have some texts that are excerpted from Louisa's writings. The following texts are presented to aid the understanding of the Creator's purpose for human existence. The wondrous original state of man and the restoration of that happy original state after so many centuries of death, sorrow, disease, sin, and damnation that resulted from the original sin of Adam's disobedience and withdrawal from the original state of living in the divine will. He withdrew from a will that is a single, eternal, ever new act. It's a single act that goes on forever, like the sun in the sky. God put it there. It does one single thing. It puts out photons of light and heat. As long as it's the sun in the sky, that's what it does, one single act. But the effects of that one single act are thousands and thousands and millions of effects of that act of the sun. Same with God's single eternal act of his will. All the things that exist and will exist all come from that single act of God. The single prime act of God contains all that is good, past, present, and future. The single prime act contains the well springs of all other acts and their effects that come from it, ad extra, which means outside the Trinity, into the realm of time, outside the inner workings of the Trinity, between the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. All right, now, I don't know what I'm going to waste too much time giving these little introductions, but I don't, because last time we did it, I never got beyond it. We got to talking about it so much. So I'm going to skip over and start share with you extracts from Louisa's writings about the effects of the destiny of God in man and man's destiny in God. Okay, here's one here. They, I found out what they reflect. I think he's talking about souls. Souls are full of happiness, of new and unspeakable joys. When, okay, now I know what it is. The saints and angels in heaven. All right, I forgot to prime you for that. When we do acts of divine will on earth, it has a great effect in heaven. It affects the angels and saints in heaven. And they look forward to the marvels and wonders and joys that they're going to get when we do an act on earth in the divine will. They are very much attentive, looking for who's going to do another act in the divine will on earth. Okay, they, the blessed, are full of happiness, of new and unspeakable joys, which the pilgrim soul, that's us on earth, pilgrim soul on earth, brings to each blessed in heaven, since this soul is not in the, well, a lot of things I have to explain here, since this soul on earth is not in their enjoying mode of heaven, but the soul on earth is in the suffering and conquering mode with their free will while still on earth. Okay, while we're on earth, we're in the conquering mode, particularly right now, those of us who are laying the foundation for the future, for those who are coming in the future. We're in the conquering mode because we're overcoming the world, the devil, and the flesh. And so when we stay in that conquering mode and we do our acts in the divine will, those acts done in the conquering mode have certain aspects about them that are not available in heaven, in the enjoying mode. So the saints in heaven who are in the enjoying mode, and many of them never heard about the divine will until they died and went to purgatory and about to go into heaven, and then they have to be given the gift of the divine will to get into heaven, because no one's allowed in there without it. So most of the souls in heaven right now never even heard about the divine will reigning in us while they were on earth. But they are in the enjoying mode, because that's part of what heaven's all about, to be in the enjoying mode of the divine will. We enjoy it too here, but we're in the conquering mode, particularly now. Merely by her breathing and her heartbeat and her motions in the fullness of joy, the soul who lives in the divine will on earth brings ever new and unspeakable joys, I think, or I said that, to the inhabitants of heaven, because it is the soul's free will that forms the conquering act and gives to Jesus this new conquering flavor. Then Jesus said to Louisa, "My daughter, the love for one who lives in our will is so great." The love for the one who lives in our will, that is the Trinity. The Trinity, the love of the Trinity is so great for the one who lives in the divine will. As she breathes, she gives us the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, as a gift, all that we have done. That's why I said you might want to call it sheriff. The creation, the angels, the saints, and our own supreme being, our love and glory. Now what he's saying here is this. The soul who lives in the divine will on earth, because God has given us possession of the eternal will, which is present in all things, in all times, in all places, in all effects of that will, the soul also becomes present to all times, in all places, in all the effects of that will, even though we may not know it intellectually, but by faith that we're required to know this. Okay, let's read it again. My daughter, the love for one who lives in our will is so great that as she breathes, just the act of breathing in the divine will, she gives us as a gift all that we have done, the Trinity has done. We give it back to him as a gift. In fact, I read where Adam wanted to repay God for creating the universe. He said, Jesus, with your own will, I want to give you as a present the whole universe as a return for having created it for me to live in. So Jesus wants to give us things, and then we give it back to him, and with the same will by which we receive it, by which he gives it. All right, I'm just going to skip around to the places where I've got some of these things marked so that we cover some of these points. Here's another one. This act in the divine will, it runs to all, sanctifying, embellishing, giving happiness and honor to all. This is the most beautiful act that the creature can give to me. No one can equal this act, to give my will in order to have it returned and to give it back again. So it's exchange. God gives us his divine will and we give it back to him. and he's delighted with that. And then he gives it back to us, and back and forth, and he doubles the effects in our souls each time he gives it back. As a creature enters our will, our soul, our joy is such that she gives us the field on which to repeat in her all that we have done in creation and redemption. In the creation of man, how much love God had in creating him. So, Adam, of course, if he had not sinned, we wouldn't have redemption. But we, in this time, by doing our acts in the divine will, we are giving back to God with his own will all that he did in creation and redemption. We're giving it back to him as a gift, and he gives it back to us again. Our divine being poured out love, and in creating Adam, our love was flowing, investing every fiber of his heart, every little tiny piece of his bones. Our love laid in his nerves. We made it also flow in his blood. We invested our love in his steps, motion, voice, and heartbeat, in each one of his love thoughts. My daughter, everything that has been done by our Supreme Being is all in action, even forever. It's always in action, never stops. And as we were just in the act of doing it for love of creatures, since all of our works were done for them. It seems that she, that is the soul, can't be without giving us new surprises, he says, of love in order to be able to say, I love you always. And we call her our joy and our perennial happiness, because there is no greater joy for us than the continuous love of the creature. That is the continuous love, which is a divine love, that we're able to love God with, a divine love in the divine will. We give the creature by right all the goods of creation. In our will, the creature can say, all is mine, even God himself, as well as the divine will. Therefore, she feels the duty to glorify us and to love us in each thing and in every person. So all of these things get you so excited you want to do everything he says in here as much as you can. There was a line here where it seemed like separating the divine will from God as if it were a different entity. That's not true. The divine will is not a person per se, but the divine will is their common essence. It's an active essence that's always in act. And so the divine will is God, but it's not one of the three divine persons, of course. It's not a person, but it is the principle of action in God. It is the essence of God. My daughter, our love is so great that we do nothing other than give continuous gifts to the creature. The first gift was the whole creation. Then the creation of man came. How many gifts do we not give to him? Gifts of intelligence, in which we place the model, the image of the most holy Trinity. The eyes, the hearing, the speech, were all gifts that we gave to him. It would not be a work worthy of our wisdom to create with things without having the space in which to place them. In the same way, by creating the human will, we created the empty space inside the human will in which to put our great gift of our most holy will, which we gave to man. This space was to serve our operating will. We were to place in this space the most extensive heavens and the brightest suns, and not just one, but one for each time man would act in the divine will. Therefore, while creation had to serve man, this space of the human will was to serve his God, to form God's delights, to always be able to form his support, his throne, his divine chamber. I gave man to get this gift, forming this space within him, in order to have the place in which to communicate with him, to be one-on-one with him, in sweet company, I wanted to have my secret chamber